everyone. Today's video is all about cookies. So it is that time of year again where baking and cooking and all that fun stuff is in the forefront. And so I decided to make a video about these Halloween cookies I made. Now, last year I did a Halloween cookie tutorial and it's been getting a lot of views lately. So I was like, you know what, Monica, you need to do this again. So this year I'm doing a few different videos and they're all going to be inspired by the Disney movie Descendants. Now, I say inspired because they're not Descendants cookies per se. They're just inspired either by feel or theme, colors, things like that. So I decided to give myself a little bit of challenge for this first video, and that is I wanted them all to use the same cookie cutter. So a few years ago, I purchased a set of just random cookie cutters. These you can get from any store, maybe Michael's or Joann, Walmart, wherever. Almost all sets come with, you know, basic fruit shapes. This one is just an apple shape. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to go out and get anything fancy. This is going to be something that anybody can do. So this video is using the same apple cookie cutter. Now, you'll notice this particular cookie here, the leaf at the top. So that's a leaf and a stem. The leaf is on the left side, and the other cookies, the leaf is on the right side. All I did was flip the cookie over after I cut it out with the cookie cutter. And that just kind of gives you a little bit of versatility. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and give you a little bit of explanation on what I'm doing. So I don't like to see the line around my cookies that you will see oftentimes when you have cookies decorated with royal icing. So in order to prevent that, I don't really use a different consistency between the outline and the flood. Now, I know that that's a major no-no for like fine intricate work and things, but you know, I do what I want to do. Also, if you noticed at the first clip, I don't know, I just kind of went all haphazardly all over that. This tip, I think, is probably a 2, so it's pretty small. So it's great for outlining, but not so great for filling. And see how thick this icing is? It's not the best for just flooding. But it works for me because I'm not doing a lot of cookies right now. So what I do is I just kind of go all over the cookie face, and then I use my toothpick or my scribe tool or, you know, anything like that to spread it out a little more evenly. That looks kind of funny. That's kind of like the D from Disney. I mean, it's not, but you know, that's the way my mind works. So anyway, I go ahead and I just fill these in. So this particular cookie is going to be a black base, and I'm going to go over the top of it and do like a gooey, like, oh, it's melting with caramel or something, but it's going to be a dark blue. And it's just going to like give it a dark feel. I don't know if you guys have seen the cookies that are red with like, you know, I don't know, some kind of a candy covering over them. It's just like a candy apple, except this candy apple cookie is not going to look like the one you buy at the fair. This is going to be one that's scary or ghouly or Halloweeny. Alright, so let's speed this up a little bit because you don't really want to watch all that. And I do like to go through and poke any holes I have in there. This is the blue I'm using, and but before I use that blue, I'm going to go ahead and put in a leaf. Now, when the icing is dry to the touch, you can add another icing color next to it and it won't mix. If you put them next to each other while they're both wet, it'll mix together, bleed together. You can mix them, marble, things like that, but that's not what I want here. I want it to be something separate. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna make it pretty, let it dry, and then I'm gonna do my blue goo. So I'm just gonna freehand this. If you are more comfortable with, you know, tracing something, you know, that's a more advanced technique, but I'm just going to freehand it. Now, I wanted it to come over the edge, so I dropped that little piece at the top, and I'm just gonna roughly, you know, outline the bottom where it's gonna fall. Now, this consistency of icing that I'm using here is a little more free-flowing. So it's going to expand. So I have to leave room in between the drips in order to create different drips instead of one big glop. So I'm just going to go through the cookie. And I want to make sure the edges are covered because this is supposed to come over the whole apple, right? So we want it to look like that. I want it to look like it's actually going over the whole apple. And if it is, it's not just going to be on the front. It's going to be all over. So I want to make sure I outline the black on the top. Now, in retrospect, I don't really like the drips on the top because if this was a real apple, the drips wouldn't be floating in space. And that's kind of what it looks like. But that's okay. I'll fix it on the next cookie. So I just fill it all in and use the same techniques that I used before. I gently use my toothpick to spread out the icing. Because I'm using this on top of icing that isn't 100% dry, I have to be even more careful. I'm also using a little bit of gold dust to cover it just to give it a little bit of extra shine. Now, I'm gonna go back over it with when it's dry with the gold dust, but I just wanted to mix it into the icing, and you'll be able to see when I do that again. So on this particular one, I went crazy with it. But I kind of like that look. It's kind of like a nighttime look almost. And I also, I don't know, I just liked it. And so I'm going in with, and painting in my gold. And at the end of this, when I do the last cookie, I'll show you how I create this gold paint. So that was an accident, that was an accident. But you know, these are cookies that are gonna get eaten, so I'm not really that much worried about it. But you wanna be a little more careful when you do yours. So I'm just going to paint over all of the black on both of the cookies and a little bit on the green part, and just to, you know, add a little bit of extra shine. This cookie is going to be very similar to the first one. I'm just going to make a few small changes. One of them being the face that's going to be in the goo. Also, I'm going to make this cookie green, and it's going to have purple goo. The blue that I used in the first cookie, I used because Evie in Descendants, that's kind of her color. And so in order to keep along with the Descendants inspired nature of these cookies, I'm using purple and green to go along with Mal. Now, like I said, these are Descendants inspired, not Descendants cookies. So yeah, this is a loose inspiration. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead with my same technique of outlining with the same icing that I flood with. And flood is loose because it's not really flooding, it's more like filling. And I'm going to go ahead and do a leaf on these. I never know whether or not I want the leaf or not, but in this case I do. Okay, I let the cookie dry for a few minutes, and now I'm going to start on my face and the gooey purpleness. So all I'm going to do is outline where the eyes should go and where the nose should go, because I'm going to put a nose on here. Now, just a little bit of warning. If you have loose icing, I call it loose, runny, whatever you want to call it, if it's not stiff, then it will run. So that means these holes that I've made for the eyes and the nose, they're going to get smaller because my icing is going to collide. It's not going to stay in place. If you want more control, then you want to use a very stiff icing. Or not very stiff, but you know, stiff. Piping consistency for writing words or things like that. So it's a little bit stiffer than what I have here. But I'm a rebel and I like to do what I want to do, and I'm into freehanding and letting the mistakes be part of the image or part of the cookie. So I just go for it like it is. So in this one, I'm not worrying so much about the size. I also am, again, just freehanding the drips. You want to be careful, like I said before, and you want to make sure you go around the edges. So I probably should have thought it out a little better with the leaf. I left it on there. I'm not 100% sure if I would do it the same way again, but hey, it's there and it's cute, and I think people will love it anyway. So I'm just gonna speed through this. Again, the same technique, carefully using my toothpick because I don't wanna close the eyes and nose in any more than they already are. And also I don't wanna scrape up the green icing beneath it. With this cookie, I decided to make the holes much bigger to let the eyes be more accentuated and the nose. And this will just give you an idea of, how you control that. One of the things I considered was leaving those gaps in the icing because it doesn't look bad. It's nice. It gives it an almost ligamenty feel. Like, is that even a word? Ligamenty? Well, in any case, here we are with the dried to the touch cookies. Like I said before, if I was patient like I should be, I would wait until they're all the way dry, but I'm impatient. I decided to go ahead and use my gold as the stem because I didn't put a stem on these. And it's just to, give it a little extra lip. And because I don't know when enough is enough, I just go gold everywhere. But at least in this second cookie, I didn't go gold overboard. I just accented a few places. Okay, so this is going to be my actual cookie that looks like it's from Descendants. This one is based on the logo that you can find online or on the books or anything like that. It's the apple with the yellow vine. Now, this particular apple has a bite out the side of it. And I originally was gonna have my cookie shape have the bites, but I decided that I wanted the room on the cookie to create the vine that goes through it. So I just decided to leave it whole and draw in the bites with the icing. I started this off with a super, super tiny tip just so I could draw in the bites, and so I switched it out to a little bit larger one to make it easier to flood. Notice this consistency is a lot more conducive to flooding, but it makes it less easy to be precise, and so that's why I had to come back out and try and fix that little peak that I wanted there. So now I'm going to magically go forward in time or back in time or whatever and create the gold paint. So basically you use something with an alcohol base, either alcohol itself. I used vodka. You can also use extract. Lemon is good because it's clear. The key is you want a clear extract so that the color of the extract or emulsion doesn't interfere with the color of the icing that you're painting over. And we use the alcohol because it will evaporate and leave the gold. You don't have to mix as much gold in as I did. I just kind of went overboard because I wanted it to be kind of thick. It's not going to turn into a paste, but I wanted a high density of gold for all of them. So it's really up to you how you want to do that. Okay, so now back to the cookie at hand. I'm gonna go ahead and take the gold and create a little bit of shadow to show the white meat of the interior of the apple. I could have just taken white icing and kind of created the inside, but to be perfectly honest with you, I used up all of my available icing to make these colors and did not feel like making a batch just for a little bit of white. But that's up to you. You do what you want. These are your cookies. You do them the way that you want to do them. So I tried to darken it up to be able to show you the gold a little bit better, but I don't know if that really worked. So I want to show you how to fix a mistake. See that? This icing is not all the way dry. And when you are not careful, you cause indentations and things of that nature. But that's easily fixable when you're doing a design like I'm doing. And I will show you in just a bit how I'm going to cover that up. Okay, so you see that little top line? That's totally not on topic, but that's what I don't like to see. But you know, it's not that big of a deal because these cookies have so much going on, you won't be able to tell. So in any case, I am going ahead and drawing in the vine here. Now this icing, again, is a little bit thicker, and which is what I need because I want to be very careful with this vine. The vine kind of goes through the cookie and out the other side and all that good stuff. And I'm also gonna leave a little bit of space. Look how bloppy that is. No, that's not good, but that's okay. I'm gonna fix it with my handy dandy toothpick. So I didn't put it right next to it because I knew I was gonna go back with the toothpick to push it close and not, you know, go overboard. I don't have the steadiest hands, so I wanted to be very careful with where I was putting the icing, and so I use my toothpick a lot for intricate details. And those are just the little thorns on the vine. Again, use your toothpick or your scribe tool or anything like that. When it gets to be too goopy on the end, just wipe it off and keep going. I buy my toothpicks from Amazon or, you know, big box stores in the huge packs of toothpicks. So I don't mind throwing these things away because you can get tons of them, thousands, for like a little bit of money, less than 10 bucks. So yeah, so I'm just gonna go through here, like I said, and pull out some icing to create the thorns. Okay, so here's the mistake that I made earlier. And I knew that I was gonna have some vines on this cookie, so I wasn't too worried about that. So all I'm gonna do is the same thing I did with the first cookie, but I'm gonna make sure my vine goes over that ugly little spot. Boom, and it's covered up. Now, I mean, you can still see it, but that's okay because I know that I'm gonna go back over it and spread my icing out a little bit, and it's gonna cover that up. And at the end of the day, when these get eaten by my husband or his crew or whoever's gonna eat these, they are not gonna care about that blemish on the front of the cookie that you can barely see. I also want to note that I use the part where the stem and the leaf go to make the top of the vine. I didn't address that before, but I left this shape of the cookie because I knew I needed space for my vine to go on the top. So I really had a lot of fun creating these cookies, coming up with designs, challenging myself to use one single cookie cutter for these. I like the way they turned out. I like how they're inspired by Descendants, but not necessarily, you know, over the top Descendants. I really like the way the red cookie with the yellow vine came out. I love the color contrast there. I also really like this blue. The blue and the black work really well together, which I'm a little bit surprised about. This is my Eevee inspired cookie there. And again, the red one from a different angle. Oh, I love that one. And then my Mal colors. My niece loves Mal, and so these colors really borrow from her look, and I really appreciate that. So here are just a few pictures of the cookies. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching my video, and I am interested to see how your cookies come out. So be sure to let me know.